My greetings. Well met. Greetings, traveler. Greetings, friend.
The pleasure is mine.
Hello and welcome to episode 264 of Concede, a Hearthstone podcast dedicated to making the competitive side of the game more accessible to you. It is Thursday, October 29th in the evening. From Gadsden, New York, it's me, Ridiculous Hat. From Karazhan, California, it's Botticus.
It's me.
It is you. From Undercity, Pennsylvania, we've got Edelweiss.
Hey, everyone.
And from wherever you are, listener, we have you. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you'd like to find out how you can support us, receive rewards in return, head to patreon.com/coinconcede. And you can also support us by leaving an iTunes review, totally free and really helps other people find the show. We also have some new patrons who are great. Vic, Matt A, and Baximus, thank you so much for your support of the show. We appreciate you and think you're wonderful. And yeah, this is the pre-US election podcast. So none of us are totally preoccupied with that. Don't worry too much about it. But we want to talk about exciting things like Life and Ladder. Now, Botticus, you dropped some breadcrumbs in the pre-show. How's your Duels and Ladder?
I'm sure that this has happened to everybody, but I hope that it hasn't happened to you, where you're playing a game and you think up a play, and it's like a 1 in 4 to win instantly, which I failed, and then a 1 in 3 to also still win instantly, which I also failed and died, and then got pretty upset about that, only to then think back about it and realize that I had a guaranteed lethal in hand, which felt even worse. So moral of the story is I am significantly worse at Hearthstone than I have been in the past. And while that is some stuff like that is stuff I've missed before, I can definitely feel like I'm not as comfortable as I used to be. I got to play some BGs over the weekend, and they were enjoyable, but they were also frustrating because I knew that I wasn't playing as well as I would be if I was more up on the meta or how things were going. So I enjoyed it, but I also was like, this kind of sucks because I feel like I could be doing better if I knew how to do better, but I don't know how to do better because I haven't been playing enough.
Did you try tripling into elementals? It's pretty good trick in this meta.
Played a lot of elementals. I definitely did that, and wasn't good enough because I didn't know how to do it correctly.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy how different things are just from like, I don't even remember what the meta was 6 months ago, right before Ashes. I guess that was before, that was Pirates-ish? It was like the Pirates release was 6 months ago? 7 months ago?
I don't know.
No, there was Dragons. March was Dragons. Do you remember when Dragons came out and they were bad?
Yeah.
Things are different now.
Yes.
Like really different. Like Bronze Warden
I have no idea what's going on. I just pick cards that look good. And I think they could unnerf Lightfang Enforcer. I don't know that card needs to still be nerfed anymore, because it seems like all the good strategies play one type of minion.
Maybe bring back Tyrion?
No. Nope.
No.
Nope. Absolutely not.
Well, yeah, probably not.
You want Deadly Spore to be buffed? That's what you want? You want Deadly Spore to get better?
I mean,
tier 5, though.
Sure. But also, we still have that press one button in all of my, 1 mana +7/+7.
I mean, we do have that, though. Like, that is in the game.
What is it?
Jaraxxus?
Sure, but
Eridar, Lord of the Burning Legion.
But then you have to play demons, and we all know that's not a thing. Like,
neither was playing neutral minions. I don't know why you think neutral minions was a thing before Tyrion.
Selfless Hero was actually the nuts the whole time.
Yeah, I mean,
they nerfed it.
Good.
But so just to to diverge a little bit, we're not going to talk much about BGs this episode. I will say I do think the meta has its charms, but is generally skewed. And Tiago from HS Replay tweeted 4 days ago that if you look since October 23rd across all ranks, the percentage of minions, the percentage of compositions that won lobbies. I'm going to paste this in the Twitch chat. I'll put it in the show notes. Elementals won lobbies 42.4% of the time. Next closest was Menagerie at 11.4% and Dragons at 11.1%. And Elementals have been nerfed a couple times, and I do think they have their charms, and I do think they're over-indexing right now because they're in every lobby, but also something that everyone is going for in every lobby is still winning just under half the time. We probably have room for some movement there. There's probably some room for some movement. So, you could bring back, remember OG Bran? You could probably bring back OG Bran. For those that don't remember, he was around for a month. Whenever you play a Battlecry minion, give a random minion +1/+1. It was busted at the time, and now I think it would be fine. You could unnerf Lightfang. You could probably unnerf AFK. You could probably push Patchwork back up to 60 if you really wanted to. But these are...
Wait, before we unnerf AFK, let's see. Let's
Fours are awful right now.
Tier 4 Elementals. Are there any broken ones?
4 is Major
right.
Domo and
Wildfire Elemental.
Yeah, the 4s are actually awful for Elementals. 4 right now in general is pretty
Menagerie
bad.
Jug would probably be pretty good.
As AFK?
I guess you'd have to wait.
It's +2/+2. It's a Screwjang Clunker.
Oh yeah, because you don't get to buy that turn. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's really just a question of the constructed cards are very different from the cards designed straight for BG, and Elementals in particular seem to really be poised to make a splash, and they made one. But I think they still have a little bit of opportunity for movement. Now, with that being said, I do think that the play pattern of them is fun. Maybe just tweak the power level a little bit. I don't want them to be obliterated. I still have been playing a few BGs, and the great thing about Hearthstone right now is there are so many modes. So, Bot, have you played any duels? Have you been a duelist?
Well, yeah, that's where I died. I had lethal with Hunter, and instead I went for the 1/4, which missed. It was an Unleash the Hounds, and then I had to tour guide to get the hero power so that I could hero power on one of the hounds, which missed. And then I had Animal Companion, which could have hit Huffer or Leok, and it hit Misha. And so I was one off. But I also had a Pen Flinger. I had a Pen Flinger in hand that would have been lethal if I had used it in conjunction with the other spells in hand, if I had just counted my mana.
So Pen Flinger was right? You ended up being the loser?
Yep.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, hey, glad you're back in the client, man. It's glad to see you enjoying it, and yeah, duels is fun. Edelweiss, what have you been dueling?
Mostly Mage. I like Mage. Mage reminds me of our old Karazhan Mage. I generally run Medivh and Alex.
Ungoro, not Karazhan. Karazhan, yeah.
Well, I remember Medivh and Alex specifically from that time. I suppose the full deck didn't generate until Ungoro, but obviously Medivh is from Karazhan. And probably now that Robe of Gaudiness isn't available, I shouldn't necessarily have those anymore. But just having high tempo plays is really solid. But we'll talk about that more later. I probably won't hit Legend this month just because I haven't felt a desire to put the time into doing that. It kind of, there's no reason, there's nothing to qualify for. I wouldn't grind for top 16 anyway. I'm not feeling it. There's a new set coming out, and I can get the quests done through duels. So that's actually pretty nice, because if the other game mode was just Battlegrounds, I would play Constructed because that's how I would have to get my quests done. But being able to get my quests done with a new game mode feels really nice to me.
Yeah, I love that, and it's this new game mode. I feel like we're going to talk about it the entire episode, so get ready for that, listeners. We're going to talk about it the whole episode because I think this is going to be sneaky, really huge for Hearthstone in a lot of ways. Like a lot of ways, and so many pros and content creators at first were like, "This is it," and then a week later they're like, "I kind of can't stop playing. Kind of can't stop," because something that we've learned over and over again, especially recently, is that roguelikes are fun. Roguelikes are a fun game design.
Yep.
You know, so this is a great roguelike. It's definitely the only roguelike I'm playing right now. Scratch neck. Yeah. I'm lying, by the way. That's not a true statement. I lied.
I was gonna say, like, that's interesting. I guess I'm not as tuned in because that's not the feeling I had playing it, but we'll talk about it more, I guess.
Yeah, we will. The whole time. It's well, I have thoughts. We'll talk about it.
The madness isn't actually coming from the game for me, though. That's what I put down for Life and Ladder. It's just
gosh.
madness. It's coming from life
Oh,
at
no.
the moment.
Oh, no.
Because
Are you okay?
I hopefully I'm okay. I had an exposure from work, not too close. It wasn't like within the 2-day window, but so I'm getting tested for COVID on Saturday, and hopefully it's negative. I feel fine at the moment, but it's just kind of a scary thing for any of us that are working in person to like find out a coworker has contracted the virus. So we'll see what happens.
Well, I hope you're okay. That's super scary. Were you in like recent contact?
It was Saturday. Today's Thursday, so not super recent. Person found out last night.
Well, I hope you're okay. Rooting for you, because scary.
Yeah.
Ugh. I assumed it was just madness of the Darkmoon Faire. Different madness. No. Well, rooting for you, hoping that it was just a small or none exposure, if there was any. As for me, so I want to give a little perspective here because I've been pretty visibly playing a lot of other games this month. The past month I put 120 hours into Hades since it came out. But I looked at my stats because I wanted to really understand what was going on in Hearthstone. My record this month, not including duels per HS Deck Tracker, is 139 wins, 94 losses. Still feels like I got a pretty good amount of games in there. Legend and Standard, Legend and Wild, flirting around the 5K mark in Battlegrounds, played a bunch of duels, and played a lot of THL. So overall, I've played every single class at least 8 games. The one I played the least is actually Hunter 4-4, and not including the Book of Rexar. One I played the most is Mage, oddly enough. Yeah. But otherwise, I've been enjoying Soul Demon Hunter lately. I've also played a good bit of Secret Miracle Rogue. Had a really amazing game with Beast Squatch and a coaching where we were against a priest, and they were Galakron priest, and we Dragon Sworded, and saw Terrellion, Tyrion, and Lord Jaraxxus. And you gotta take Big J. You gotta take Lord Jaraxxus. And they were a slow, grindy priest, and we played J-Rax on 9, and we got him. Played those 6/6s. Felt like coming home again. Had to do it. I don't know if it was optimal, though I don't really like giving priests Tyrion or Terrellion, and they cannot take Jaraxxus. Can't do anything about it. We got there. Thank you, Lord J.
Been waiting for Jaraxxus to come back since you can no longer sack pact the opponent's face.
Yeah. The bigger issue is that 15 health is not really all that safe anymore, but we got there against the priest because Mind Blast rotated out. Suck it, Anduin. So, been enjoying that. Been enjoying duels indeed a lot. I've played a bunch of them, and I got a 12 win with Guardian Druid because ramp's still good, especially when you get the treasure that makes all your spells cost 1 less. So I got unnerfed Guardian Animals and just kept taking the spells that made that deck work. It was really powerful. And just ended up with, I think I had 3 swipes and 2 Starfalls with the hero power that does +2 spell damage. Nothing could ever stick a board, and I just killed people from 15 a whole bunch of times. So, really fun, enjoying that, and as mentioned earlier, also played 120 hours of Hades in the past 30 days, so That game's really good, and if you like games, you should buy it. Just throwing it out there. But if you missed me saying it this time, you will hear me say it any other time you talk to me, so don't worry. So yeah. And we've got some news. We've got a lot of news. We have a page and a half of news. I guess let's do that. Want to do news?
Let's do it.
Gadgets and Gazette always gets the scoop.
All right. So first up on the docket, we have the Darkmoon Faire pre-launch party. So card reveals are going to start starting Monday. We'll start getting card reveals for the Darkmoon Faire. Madness at the Darkmoon Faire. And the final card reveal stream will be on November 11th at 10 a.m. Pacific time with Kripp. And then following that, we're gonna have some kind of they're doing the theory crafting live streams a bit differently this time. So where normally they just would allow the content creators to play kind of whatever deck they wanted. Now what's going to happen is basically is it the day after? Let's see. Oh, the day of. So right after the card reveal stream ends, you're going to be able to go to the Hearthstone website. You can build a standard deck and submit it on the Hearthstone subreddit. And basically you just make a post, like there's going to be an official thread, and you can submit your deck and say which content creator you would like to see play the deck. And if you are in the top 20 most upvoted decks, basically it's going to be assigned to a content creator to play during the live stream, and you will also win the Darkmoon Faire Mega Bundle. So if you're a deck theory crafter that likes making fun decks that you think people would really like to see streamers play, this is a great opportunity for a lot of people to get a Mega Bundle. And in addition to that, they're going to give away another 100 Mega Bundles. I think it's just for watching people during the... I don't know if it's watching people or if the content creators are actually giving them away during the live stream. But yeah, they have this whole list here of kind of all of the things that they're going to be giving away, and it's a lot of stuff. So on 11/12, they're going to give away 2,000 gifted subs to different live streamers, like different streamers that are going to be theory crafting and playing decks. On the 13th, they're giving away 100 Mega Bundles via Reddit and 2,000 more gifted subs. And then on the 14th and 15th, various creators are going to have some Mega Bundle codes to give away. And then on the 16th, another 2,000 gifted subs. So this is a lot of stuff.
This is a lot of stuff.
Maybe they haven't been as public about everything that they're giving away before, but this is just kind of putting it out there about how much stuff that they're giving away, and that you can get a chance to get one of these Mega Bundles. And tons of people play Hearthstone, so it's not as likely, but like this is more, I don't know, this is cool just because it's obvious. It's just like, hey, we're actually giving away all this stuff.
Yeah, I think this is more than they usually do. Like a lot more.
Yeah, maybe.
I mean, Reddit has never given away bundles before, let alone Mega Bundles. They're giving away $180 bundles on Reddit. Combined with, they're giving out a total of 400 more Mega Bundle codes to give away on 2 specific days, right before the expansion launches. I guess I don't really see details on that, but it looks like just a lot of stuff. And also they're sub-bombing streamers. And this is rad. Now they are still doing the theory crafting streams. So the theory
Yeah,
crafting streams are still happening, but they're with the
but the
Reddit
list-
twist.
Yeah, they have to play the list that they're given to based on. So there's more involvement, and I'm not exactly sure how it'll work on Reddit, and it'll be pretty interesting to see who gets upvoted and what lists get upvoted. But still, I don't know. This is a good twist. I still am not in love with the idea of the theory crafting streams, but this is a twist I'm more a fan of than I was before, like by quite a bit. It feels like there's more community involvement, which is always good.
Absolutely, because I think the analogy that Hat made before was that it was like watching people get to open their Christmas presents before you and play with them. But in this sense, it's more like watching people use the Christmas presents you gave them, which is better, right? Because there's like a more active participation within that. And so it's certainly going to be really awesome for any of the people who actually get their deck list used. There's going to be a lot of competition for that. But in general, it's kind of nice to know that these are decks that came from the unknown community rather than just the creators playing with all this stuff before we get the chance to do that.
Yeah, it's I don't know if they have to keep doing this, but if they're going to do it and it's going to be like this, it's a lot better. Like it's just before it was so Ivory Tower-esque, like the haves and the have-nots, and they're still leaning into some of the old things. Like it's love Kripp, but he's doing another reveal stream, and he still has not played Constructed in a while. The streamers doing the theory crafting, still like a lot of the same names. Now, luckily they got Aveline in there, which I'm very happy about, and a couple other women. But this is a step in the right direction if they're committed to this idea. So, hey, we'll take that.
Yeah, so that's going to be the live streams will be November 12th. There's going to be a group from 9 to 12 and another group from 12 to 6. So that's the day after, right? Yeah, that's the day after the full card reveal is going to be the live streams. And while it may not be as likely for you to get the mega bundle, you're guaranteed to get 2 Hearthstone packs as long as you tune in for a couple hours during these live streams. So could still get some still get some packs at least. And all of the mega bundles basically between the 13th and the 16th that I was talking about, that's actually the pre-release weekend. So yeah, basically during the pre-release weekend, that's when they're going to be giving away all the mega bundles and Twitch subs on creator channels. So I think that might just be almost anybody who's streaming Hearthstone. I don't think that's going to be limited to the ones that you always see. So it's a great opportunity if you've always wanted to have a sub to a specific channel. Make sure you're tuning in during this time because giving away a lot of stuff.
Yeah. And hey, if you want Duels access without pre-ordering, if you can't swing the pre-order right now, just open a Twitch window right now and leave a Hearthstone stream open until you get Duels access. They're giving out those drops a lot. There are a lot of drops. You do not need to get a pre-order to get access to this game mode.
Yeah, so even if you're watching our stream right now, because I think we're in the Hearthstone category, so technically somebody could get access just by watching our stream.
Yeah.
But so yeah, that's all happening pretty soon here. We're less than 2 weeks away. That's pretty crazy from the start of all this. Next on the docket is we have a list of a bunch of developer interviews, mostly regarding Madness at the Darkmoon Faire. And Yeah, just not going to go into each article individually, but which of these did you find the most interesting piece of information, would you say, Hat? Anything in here that stood out?
So there are a bunch of things. Yes, there are quite a few. I'm going to give you some quick hits. Now, the most important thing for me to do here, I have two very important things to do at the top of this section. First of all, Blister Guy and Deck Tech and a bunch of other people from Australia and New Zealand were on a group Zoom call with Ben Lee and John McIntyre, the lead of the set. Ben Lee, if you don't know, is the game director. And Blister Guy's episode about that was really great. Not just because Blister Guy tried to do a Cockney accent for Ben Lee. That is not at all how Ben Lee talks. Not even a little bit. But he did do the accent anyways, as he has done before. But also there was a lot of really great information, which I'm going to paraphrase. You should go listen to that episode. It is the first half of a 35-minute episode. Doesn't take long. A lot of really good information. Deck Tech tweeted some of this stuff. I'm going to read some of it to you now, but this is a secondhand telling of some content creators that I really respect. So check out Deck Tech's Twitter and check out Blister Guy's episode on this. But there have been some hot topics lately in the community, including, but not limited to, Battle Pass, cost of the game, mini sets, and of course Yogg Saron. So I have I have a few cool quotes here. You're going to hear those. Definitely make sure you check out this other piece of content. So, first of all, quick snippet. There's going to be a card with Corrupt that costs 9 mana. And it's apparently going to be really cool. Liv Breeden says it's really cool. Because remember how Corrupt works. You have to play a card that costs more than the card with Corrupt for it to get corrupted. So you have to play a 10 to make the 9 mana card corrupted. Apparently the upgraded version is awesome. Core quoted in one of these interviews, with the Scholomance meta, which has been objectively balanced, there's been a lot of decks that are comparable to each other. Even with that, in a lot of different decks you can play, it's easy to get antsy quickly, and we realize that more content, more spread out, is just healthier overall. I think this is very insightful because Scholomance has been an objectively really well-designed meta that I think a lot of people kind of burned out on faster than expected, and 35 cards in the mini set will help that. Now, of course, there's the money thing. So another core quote. If you're a player right now who saves up a ton of gold for an expansion, then buys all your new packs with that gold, that's not going to change. I'm going to repeat that. That's rewinding. If you're a player right now who saves up a ton of gold and buys all your new packs with that gold, that's not going to change. I refuse to slap my desk because I have to deal with that in editing later, but I almost did. You can play through the entire expansion, get all your progressions and rewards, then use all your gold to buy packs. You're not losing anything. In fact, you should be getting more gold and more packs and more cosmetics by the end of the season. That was our goal for it, and it gives us the opportunity to make all these awesome cosmetics. You can do all these awesome hero skins and cosmetic versions of the coin. There's a lot of creativity. Alright, switching streams real quick. Chad Nervig, Celestalon. With the release of this expansion set, I think the metagame will be shaken. Hearthstone values the individuality of each class, but this release introduces a new archetype for shamans. It is Enhancement Shaman. As seen in World of Warcraft, this shaman has the power of the spirits in his weapon and attacks himself. I'm very excited about this. For those of you unfamiliar with Enhancement Shaman, you take a big hammer, and then you Captain Planet the hammer, and then you hit things with it. You put all the elements in the hammer, and then you boom, boom, boom. It has procs and things that make the hammer more stormy. Storm Strike, you gotta get there. But also, Doom Hammer with Rockbiter weapon is an example of Enhancement Shaman. Weapons and personal buffs. This sounds awesome. Throwing it out there. Sounds awesome. Get to play with Doom Hammer again. I still have my gold Doom Hammers. They're very shiny. Thoughts on Enhancement Shaman before I go on?
It's exciting, although it is yet another archetype of shaman added, so I'm wondering if it'll just be a pile of jank until they cut away some of the chaff and we get narrowed down to just Enhancement Shaman over a few sets alongside some other things. Because if this introduction of Enhancement Shaman is another one set wonder kind of thing, then it's either going to be really busted and then get nerfed away, or it's not going to do much because there's not enough support. It'll have to synergize pretty well with at least one other archetype, or be just way too pushed. So we'll have to see.
There are easily ways for weapon damage from hand to be way too pushed. Yes, I agree, and I think that some players might even say Soul Demon Hunter is on the verge of that, though I know Boticus would defend that. He's a big fan of that deck. But Enhancement Shaman as an idea, the thing that Shaman has kind of struggled with, and actually this is something that came up before in Discord, Shaman in WoW has consistently had problems with class identity and low power level, like for a long time. For a long time, they kind of haven't known what to do with Shaman, and it's kind of been mediocre a lot of the time, right? So,
Yeah.
for that to
I mean,
go ahead, Bot.
at least Shaman was okay when I stopped playing.
Yeah. It's like they find ways to make it okay, but it's kind of a jack of all trades, right? Because it's all about the idea, the concept of the 4 different elements. You have to do a little bit from each, and they're different because otherwise they'd be the same. So it's you can't have like fire and water do the same thing, and so it's kind of hard to make a cohesive archetype there. But Enhancement Shaman is very clear in what it wants to do is hit harder with elements of hitting. So I think that cohesion will be fun.
Yeah, I mean, if we've learned anything, it's that Shaman doesn't have enough archetypes right now. They just have too many cards for each archetype, so really spreading them out more so that they, have more different things that they can do sounds exactly like what they need.
Yes. So this last quote, we're going to circle back a little bit. And this is from Deck Tech, which is also, again, referenced in that Blister Guy Walk to Work episode. 2 notes. 1, just sat down with John McIntyre and Ben Lee for a bit, feel better about things. 1, they designed Yogg specifically for fun play rather than competitive. 2, new Yogg has a lot more knobs to adjust if they missed. And 3, John's coming back to Twitter to talk about the set. So, John McIntyre, lead designer, has not been tweeting since 2018. He tweeted today. Apparently will be more active going forward. I'm very excited about that. But the idea of the original Yogg not having a lot of ways to nerf it, I think, is true. And this Yogg has a lot of different ways to nerf it. You can make certain options appear more frequently. You can change the options that show up on the Wheel of Fate. You can remove the stupid coin flip to Pyroblast and win the game thing if you really want to, which, I think that'd be fun in a Trollden highlight, but maybe not fun in a Grandmasters event. But that's neither here nor there. But there are a lot of ways for them to tweak this card, whereas original Yogg, it just kind of did what it did. So, glad to hear they have that in mind. And secondly, and this I think is very important, the 35-card mini set is mostly commons and rares, with an unspecified but small amount of epics and legendaries, the idea being that with duplicate protection, a bit of crafting, you should be able to get it all pretty easily, assuming you want it all. So in Galakron's Awakening, it was 4 legendaries, 4 epics, and I think it was 12 and 15 between rares and commons. I imagine the distribution will be a little smaller, probably like 2 legendaries. We don't know for sure, but if it's 2 legendaries, 3 epics, it's a lot more affordable. With that being said, I think there are legitimate concerns about the cost of the game going up by adding in cards that you can't get specifically in the middle of the set, especially because we have no details about it. Thoughts, opinions, takes?
I mean, it depends on how much more stuff we're getting with the new revamped system. So when I see the new system, and if it's like we're getting more, but it's only a little bit more, then I'll have questions. But until all the cards are on the table, I'm gonna reserve judgment for now.
Yeah, and I think there may be an interesting thing that happens where perhaps I won't feel the effects at the mid expansion release, but until the following expansion, where I perhaps have less gold since I spent a bunch of it in the middle of the last one. Because if I do the pre-purchase bundle at the beginning of the expansion as usual, and spend all my gold then, and then normally I would hit a point where I'm saving up gold for the next expansion if I instead hit that point where, okay, I use everything that I've saved up to open packs at this midpoint, how much then ends up being saved for the next expansion. I know right now I'm actually a little low because of the heroic brawl, which is my own fault.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to blame you for doing that. I'm just going to say you probably shouldn't have. But I would guess with duplicate protection, if we're looking at approximately, even if it's the same breakdown. Old Guardian did a video that broke down the math on this, assuming the same rarity distribution as Galakrond's Awakening. He came to the conclusion that it was a lot more expensive than Adventures were, which is accurate assuming they dropped this new thing in the current economy that we have, with no support. Now, that's not going to be the case, so I am amazed by Botticus and Edelweiss having discipline and restraint, because we're supposed to do hot takes and strong opinions here that have no basis in reality. But
Saving that for the Decksplanations segment.
oh, I'm so excited. But we don't know a lot of the context here, and even if it's the same breakdown as Galakrond's Awakening, in 21 packs you will have all the commons and rares. So it's not nothing, but if 2100 gold is enough to get all the commons and rares and then craft what you need, I feel like that's not so bad for the significant benefit of adding variety to the metagame in the middle of it without being an adventure that you need to pay like money for. I think that is a substantial benefit.
I like the idea of opening packs mid-expansion instead of once a year.
Yeah.
Having more days where you get to open packs and have it be exciting is better for the game. The question is are you going to have enough of the set where it's actually exciting to open packs again? Although, now that I think about it, I don't really enjoy opening packs as much as I thought, because when you get to the amount of packs that you open, I just want an open all packs button, like Sottle's been asking for. I opening 10 packs is kind of cool. Opening 80 packs kind of takes a long time, and I'm over it after like 40 packs or whatever.
No, you gotta
compromise.
do stream. You gotta stream it.
I did. It was fine. I just wanted it to be over so that I could play games.
Compromise is to open packs in increments of 10, which is what Magic Arena has, where you can open single packs, or you can say, okay, I've got a lot, so I'm going to open 10 packs at once. Then
that'd be cool. And you get all the highlights.
In the time it takes to open 10 packs, you could open 100 packs. That feels about right.
I don't know. I like keeping track of card back RNG. I think that's very important. I mean,
there are those crazy people like Hat and Wicked Good who literally mark down every single time that they get like a legendary and what percentage of the set that they open. And
my God.
But I only keep track of the important stats of which card back is the luckiest and which legendaries that card back opened. You have to know.
You can't even name them all.
The card backs?
Yeah.
Well, no, but I can name the ones that worked. And it's the I usually dodge food card backs because my heart is drawn to them and they're usually not lucky, but Pie was a winner last time. Pie was very good. As I should have known.
Are you
Pie
using random, or do
No.
you go
No.
back and...
No, I
he
take
goes on
chat
streaks,
nominations.
and if something if something isn't lucky, if
okay.
he goes like 10 packs without something exciting, he'll switch. Unless it's a card back that he really likes. Like I don't know. Don't you like the Van Cleef card back, right?
That's
You're
my
a fan?
go-to. Yes.
Yeah, Van Cleef is a go-to. So like, he'll
But I
stick
don't
on
want to
that
taint
one
it.
for a
So
little
no.
extra time.
I don't want to taint it. I usually won't open on Van Cleef.
Whatever. It's some nonsense that
It's very scientific.
we all have. Everybody has something like that they just believe in some nonsense just because it's fun, and everybody else calls it nonsense. So
I want to point out that I don't believe in the superstition. I just follow it because it's content. Hashtag content. Also, while we're here, shout out to Day9's video today, which is titled "Feedback is BS," which every game developer friend that I have in my timeline just is like, this is comedy gold. Because I forget what my train of thought was here, but it was really funny. What was I talking about? I was talking about something.
Day 9, feedback, I don't know.
I'll listen back to it. I'm going to mark this down, delete this whole thing. Doesn't matter. It's like, I'm like a goldfish. If I lose something for 3 seconds, it's just gone. But yeah, I do like the idea. I open packs 3 days a year, right? It's the 3 release days. I just save all my gold, blow through all my gold that day, don't open any more packs till the next expansion because I have every card. I am also the whaliest of whales. So like, I buy both pre-orders and the show revenue helps out with that because everyone's really supportive. And then the excitement of new packs just isn't there. So I like the idea of the new cards in the middle without having to wait for the risky skipper wing in week 3 and then play a bunch of card chores. So yeah. The other note, though, that we have to announce in this section, which I also definitely forgot to do, is that in 2 weeks, we will be talking to someone about Hearthstone. We will be doing a developer interview of ourselves. Ixar is coming on the show. So any questions that you want us to ask Ixar, get at us. And yes, we're very excited. Very excited. Because we finally got
2
him.
weeks?
I think it is it the 5th or the 12th?
The 5th.
By 2 weeks, I mean next week. It's next week.
That was the invite I got was the 5th, and I requested time off work, so I got very scared there for a second.
No, next week. Not 2 weeks. Editing. So, next week, the 5th, 7 days from this recording, because I know when things happen, is Ixar's going to be on the show. So, any questions you have, let us know, because we're going to talk to him. We'll ask him many questions, like his love of anime, and his experience on Reddit, and what a systems designer does exactly, and I don't know, we'll figure some stuff out, right? Yeah.
Oh, we'll have questions.
Yes. So yeah, developers are out there.
Yeah. And there's a bunch of information there from, a bunch of cool stuff out there. Make sure you're checking out other people's content that are putting out good content. Next on the docket is Activision Blizzard announced the Q3 results. And to sum it up, things are going well. I guess the quote here is that the hours played in Hearthstone grew year over year in the third quarter, with the Battlegrounds mode seeing sustained strong engagement since its release last November. Battlegrounds engagement illustrates the significant potential for new modes with the franchise, and the team continues to execute against an innovative pipeline with regard to this opportunity. November will see the broad release of Duels, a new player versus player mode, which is already seeing strong interest in early access since its reveal last week, alongside a new in-game progression system and the latest expansion, Madness of the Darkmoon at the Darkmoon Faire, all aimed at providing a rich and rewarding experience that drives growth across existing, lapsed, and new players. And apparently, Activision Blizzard needs to hire 2,000 new employees despite shutting down Blizzard France earlier this year.
Whoa.
Yeah. I like that more hours are seeing play. It's a lot of focus on Battlegrounds. And I get the vibe when the stocks went on the investment call, they're talking about BGs this much. I would be willing to wager that it's more popular than Constructed Hearthstone at this point. I'd bet $1. Not that that's a bad thing, but I think it's an interesting thing.
Yeah, it's probably not particularly close. It's much more accessible, right? You don't need a collection. You don't need any of that stuff.
Yeah, and the Twitch numbers are like, that's not the metric that we want to use exclusively, but if you go on Twitch, you will see a lot of BG streamers. A lot of them. And Duels is definitely picking up too, but yeah.
I'm not sure if there will be Duels streamers. I suppose that remains to be seen.
I mean, it's an option, right? But like Firebat is almost exclusively doing Duels right now. A lot of people are doing quite a bit of Duels content.
We'll see how long that lasts. I don't know.
I think there's something to that mode. I really do. But the other thing that's weird about this,
I'm just looking real quick at the top streamers, and right now, number 1 and 2 in terms of viewer count are Battlegrounds, and then number 3 is Duels, and then 4 is Standard, 5 is Duels, 6 is Duels, 7 is Wild. So actually, pretty good spread there.
Yeah, not bad. I'll take it. Is one of them Kripp?
No.
When does he start?
I don't know, bedtime?
Guess so. But yeah. Kripp has put me to sleep many a time. It's his YouTube Battleground videos are the perfect length. I usually queue up 2 of them on the TV and set the sleep timer. I'll make it through the first one and then fall asleep before the second one. Almost always. It's like clockwork.
On the TV? Do you have a TV in your bedroom, or do you just fall asleep on the couch?
There's a TV in the bedroom. Yeah. Is that surprising?
I don't know. I'm not sure where people have TVs because I like haven't had a TV.
Well,
I just use a monitor. I don't know.
I would, but it's all the way over there when I'm in the bed and it's nice and comfy. Anyways, to avoid more interior decoration conversation, it's a little strange as well. Remember those giant Blizzard layoffs like a year and a half ago? And remember that they fired people this year and now they need to hire more people, and I don't quite understand.
Does feel strange.
It's a kitty. There's a kitty. Behind Edelweiss. There's a cat. Sorry, I got distracted. It's an adorable little kitty.
All right, and then so next up we have a Kripp's Duels tournament, the first Duels tournament that was held. Has a victor. Firebat won the first ever Duels tournament, which is pretty cool, and we have a link to all the decks that Firebat used to win in the show notes. So if you're looking for stuff like that, we'll have this link in here and then some links later if you're looking for help building those initial decks. And as Hat was saying earlier, if you are not planning on buying the pre-order bundle, make sure you try to have a Hearthstone Twitch stream open, because they're giving away 500 Duels access code. Well, I don't know if it's codes or if it just, I think it just gets added automatically to your account as long as you have Twitch drops enabled. It just gets added instantly to your account. 500 people every hour, just on any stream. It doesn't matter. Could be you could be the only viewer in that Hearthstone player stream. You have a chance to get access to Duels just by watching Twitch. So if you really want to try out this mode that a lot of people seem to be enjoying, then make sure you're just, tuning in when you can.
Of warning from the chat, thank you, Donkey. This automatically gets added to your account and also automatically adds the legendary Duels quest. So, if you have 3 quests, complete one of them before you open up Twitch, because one of them might just disappear. And there are 3 Duels quests in a row. First one is win 2 duel games. Second one is win 3 games of duels. And the fourth one is win 4 games of duels. So win 2, win 3, win 4. And each one of those gives you Skolomance packs, because packs are great and they're free.
And anything else?
Oh, I was just going to say, like I said last week, don't be me, where I got the pre-order when I had 3 quests and then just erased one of my quests because of the legendary one. Felt pretty bad.
That'll happen.
The show will reimburse your 50 gold.
And lastly, unfortunately, ending on a bit of a sad note, Dave Kosak is leaving Blizzard. Womp womp. So after 12 years, moving on from Blizzard, Dave Kosak, he'll be missed. It was awesome to see him in the latest Madness at the Darkmoon Faire video. But
I like Dave Kosak.
Yeah.
He's going to stay on the soundboard forever. I still have some clips here. Where is this one? I have so many. Here it is.
Evil! It's an evil card!
Yeah, that's staying on there forever. And
is it any good against Hunter?
Dave, we love you. Now, and the excitement here, we're very excited for Dave to go do new awesome things. He's going to a new studio called Deviation Games, which we haven't heard of. He is not going to the Moorheim Studios, not going to Dreamhaven. But, I think there's some reason for concern that a lot of very talented people have left Blizzard very recently. Like a lot of very talented people. And I don't know if this is because of the wage spreadsheet that was passing around a few months ago. But it's kind of hard to not look into that. But with that being said, I doubt too many people just saw that and were like, well, this is surprising, I'm out, and just bounced. I doubt that's what happened. I don't know. Thoughts?
Yeah, those kinds of career moves take some time to work out. I don't imagine it's a snap decision necessarily.
probably makes it a little easier to hire 2,000 more people.
I mean, if you pay more. But if they all see the public spreadsheet and then they're like, this isn't enough. I don't know.
I mean, I've even gone through some considerations of my own. You know, I think most people know I applied in the last round of hiring for designer and was defeated by Gallon and Board Control, which I have no shame about. They're pretty sweet. Glad to have them on the team. But you know, light of recent events, I've kind of decided I probably wouldn't take it if I couldn't do it remotely, because I don't want to live near fires. So I don't know. People might just have more and more things that are letting them say, like, maybe this isn't the dream job that I keep or take to the exclusion of all else.
Yeah. It's hard to say. None of us are in game dev, but Dave, you're going to do great wherever you go. Thanks for 12 years at Blizzard, buddy. And that wraps up our news section. So shall we talk about some tournaments? Let's go.
It's the grand tournament!
All right. So Masters Tour Madrid was last weekend. IGXC took the event down over Altotemo in the finals. Gabby and Jayu rounding out the top 4. High 3 Give Please, Batu Paksoy, and MM78 in the top 8. Shout out to Rami94 in 9th. Rami, you're great. Consistent performance. Unfortunately 9th. Great performance as well. Some friends of the show and some generally good people. Monsanto, Meaty, Paradox, Lucas, DM, NASC, Ego Waffle, and Glee, among many others, had some really nice records. The winning lineup overall, Soul Demon Hunter, Cyclone Mage, Post-Nerf, Control Priest, and Bomb Warrior, generally banning Warrior. So this was a ban Bomb Warrior lineup over Highlander Hunter, Lebroom Paladin, Control Priest, and Control Warrior in the finals, banning Priest. Love that we saw Lebroom Paladin make it all the way to the finals. Not surprised at all that Priest overperformed at Masters Tours, as it tends to do. Bomb Warrior versus Control Warrior in the finals. Ugh. And Highlander Hunter made it all the way there, but Soul Demon Hunter Cyclone Mage still took it down. The most popular decks overall, thanks to Steve over at Off Curve for the stats. Soul Demon Hunter, Cyclone Mage, Control Priest, Secret Rogue, and Bomb Warrior were the top 5. Guardian Druid, Lebroom Paladin not actually that far behind. In terms of win rate, this was a control event. Control Warrior far and away the best deck by win rate, with Control Priest not too far behind it. Galakron Rogue was really good for targeting the control decks. Soul Demon Hunter did well in general. Highlander Priest, oddly enough, did well in general. And Lebroom Paladin was right behind them. Bomb Warrior was the worst performing deck with a large sample size. To nobody's surprise, again, it was probably targeted, much like it was the last Masters Tour. And neither Guardian Druid nor Cyclone Mage overall did particularly well, even though Cyclone Mage ended up winning the event. And some of the best performing lineups did include Cyclone Mage. They all had Soul Demon Hunter. They mostly had Bomb Warrior. The fourth deck was often Control Priest or Secret Rogue. The event was right after the nerf, so it was kind of hard to pin down the meta. We do have 10 new GMs. Normally we'd have 9, but remember, ETC is retiring. Started a new construction business, new baby, life stuff. And he's stepping down from Grandmasters. So there were 4 in Americas, 3 in the other regions. In APAC, Give Please, High 3, and Lambie Series made it. In the Americas, Just Saying, Bounce out of GM, got relegated. He's back. Fled, Impact, and Dreadeye. And in EU, Warma also bounced out of GMs and is right back. Lita and Frenetic. Still raises some pretty serious questions about how the relegation system works, because they added a spot of relegation after feedback from the first season of GM, but then the rules allow all 6 Masters Tours to count, so if you spike a Master Tour in the first half of the year, you can lose out and still probably get back into GM, like what happened with Warma. Or just do generally well, just like what happened with Just Saying, and still get back there. Interesting to see, but kind of a safer position for those folks that won in the beginning. But dead draw. I'm so sad for dead draw. Yeah. Oh well.
Yep. Been waiting for him to get in for a while now, and it's just has consistently been close, but not quite.
Yeah, and really, like, Europe should have twice as many GMs as the other regions, because I think it was Alutemo who said that with his finals appearance, he finally qualified for EU GM, because he's from the APAC region. So yeah, that says a lot. So anyways, as far as the ladder, we have early data, but no reports yet. Everything is very, very early on. So, in terms of popularity, just over the last 24 hours from Vicious Syndicate, Paladin, Hunter, and Demon Hunter are by far the most popular classes, followed by Rogue, Priest, and Warrior. But Paladin, Hunter, and Demon Hunter are kind of a slice above the rest. At high diamond ranks, there's quite a bit of Soul Demon Hunter and Pure Paladin. While at Legend, the Demon Hunter remains, but players are more likely to shift to Galakron Rogue, Cyclone Mage, Control Priest, or Bomb Warrior. In terms of very early win rate numbers, these are very early, very preliminary. Cyclone Mage took a huge hit, Librum Paladin got a really nice boost at Legend, and at Legend, a new archetype is starting to peek its head out. Control Shaman. There are signs. When the most popular class in the meta is Paladin, Control Shaman. And you don't have to deal as much with scammy stuff, and you can beat Priests if you play Elysiana and have a lot of time on your hands, and you can out-heal Soul Demon Hunter, and it might be a thing. Now, very early on, we don't know, but it might be a thing. Got Jared Pullet from Team Swagway in the chat, and he is very excited about Control Shaman. I'm sure that he started a game when we started the podcast, and it's just about wrapping up now. So, you know. But also, at Diamond, Paladin is much more pronounced, proving to be the defining class of the meta outside of Legend, both in terms of Librum and Pure, both have very high win rates and very high representation. Face Hunter and Soul Demon Hunter are doing alright as well, but those decks don't really want to see Paladin, especially Librum Paladin. So, that's kind of the deck to beat right now. But the deck to beat that we're going to talk about in Decksplanations is not in Standard. It is not in Wild. It is not in Battlegrounds. You know what time it is?
It's time to do.
Oh. I was really hoping you had the sound in.
Shout out to Mad at Arms for that soundbite.
Oh, so glad, because I would have totally butchered it trying to quote that line.
Nobody can do it better than Saito Kaiba.
No one. Absolutely no one. What what are just initial impressions? What have you played? I mentioned I'm playing mostly Mage.
So
So
go ahead.
I haven't been given the options of the stuff I want to play, which I think is one of my bigger knocks against the format. Is I'm glad that they kind of force you to play other stuff because you don't really you get 4 options, which is a little better than Arena, only getting 3, but yeah, it's I've been wanting to play Shaman. I like Shaman, and I got to play a couple. I'm on my second Shaman run, and it's pretty fun. Also played a bit of Warrior, a bit of Rogue, but I also really want to try Paladin, because I don't know, it just seems I've gotten crushed by a couple Paladins. I've beaten a few, but also just got demolished by a turn 5 or turn 4 or turn 5 Ragnaros Light Lord with no other minions, and I killed 6 or 7 of them and then just lost because you don't beat it. You just can't. It keeps coming back, and then it heals itself, and then you can't kill it. But yeah, I really there's decks I really want to try, and then I keep getting offered other ones that I don't get to try, or that I don't really feel like trying, I guess. But yeah, it's interesting. I have a feeling on some of the classes that we'll get into in the next section, but overall, Shaman's fun, and my favorite thing to do is the turn 1 overload. What is it?
Bloom?
Yeah, turn 1 Bloom, Hero Power, tour guide is that's a start. I like that start. But also, like, some of the treasures are some of the passive bonuses you get are much better than the passive bonuses I've been getting.
And some of the active cards, also some of the like playable cards, are kind of busted. Kind of insane.
Yeah, so I'll be interested to see when and how quickly they balance, because there's been some outliers, I'll say.
Well, they've already balanced once. And this was shout-outs to the Team 5 developers, and Celestion in particular. I definitely... I tweeted Duels feedback, fun, but probably remove robes. And then they removed robes like 5 hours later. And I'm not going to say that I did it, because I didn't. Kripp called it out the day before. But then Celestion was subtweeting me later. It's like, we heard your feedback, and it was, Duels is fun, remove robes. So we did. So shout out to you, Celestion, for doing that quickly. Robes was insane. For those that are unaware, and if you played the single-player content, you would have seen this. Robes of God is a treasure that says your cards cost half as much and you can only play 2 per turn. And it rounded down. So a 5-cost card would cost 2. A 3-cost card would cost 1, for example. So you just took that and then took the highest cost of anything that you could find in every bucket and just slammed everything 2 turns earlier than you were supposed to. It was very hard to beat. But they removed it already. They hotfixed that like a day after the mode came out. So, respect for that. I imagine there will be more changes that are a little bit more measured, but Robes is the one that needed immediate action. There are a couple other cards, though, that kind of stand out. I agree with you, Bot, because some of those are crazy. And there's this weird thing as well. They have 2 different versions of some of the treasures, and I think some of them are supposed to be in and some of them are not. Because I had a 12-win Druid run, and I got Khadgar's Scrying Orb, which reduces all spells you play by 1. But an opponent I played against had a Ronin's Scrying Orb, which is the same art, but only the first spell that player played that turn costs 1 less. And
I had that one.
I don't know why both are in the pool, but I got the better one.
It was not as good.
Yeah.
Yes. You are offered them at different points. So when you're getting passive treasures, and maybe I'm totally wrong on this, but at least from my experience, this has been the case. After your round 1 win, which is the most unpowered you can be, or win or loss, you are offered one of the passive treasures. And in my experience, that has been the underpowered version of many of these things. So that'll be your caltrops that says the first minion an opponent plays takes 1 damage, or the first spell you cast each turn costs 1 less. They're those underpowered versions. But then after round 5, that's when you get full powered treasures, like all your spells cost 1 less, or all your battle cries are doubled. So that's why you have some of these double treasures, right? I might get offered passive spell damage plus 1 Robe of the Apprentice after round 1, whereas Robe of the Magi spell damage plus 3 would be after round 5.
But there are only 3 of these cards that have 2 different versions. They have the same art and slightly different names.
Yeah. So you do want to keep track. Make sure you're paying attention at the start of a game, whether they have scattered caltrops versus regular caltrops, Ronin's Scrying Orb versus Khadgar's Scrying Orb, Robe of the Apprentice versus Robe of the Magi, or I believe there's one for... Oh no, I guess
Nope.
Rocket. I guess they don't have the full Rocket boots. They just have the backpack, which is your first minute each turn as Rush.
And there are a lot of these ones that, if you look at small pouches, in Dalaran Heist it was small backpacks where you drew 2 cards at the start of the game. This one's only draw 1 card. Rocket boots in the game, or Rocket whatever, was every minion you have has Rush. This one is the first minion you play each turn. Crystal Gem in solo was you start with an extra mana crystal. This is only on the first turn. So there are a bunch of these that were specifically watered down, but there are only 3 of these that have the watered down version and the powered version with the same art and only 1 word different in the name. It could be that they're meant to be given at different times, or it could be that they're included by mistake. I don't know which. My theory is the second, but for now we'll play as though it's the first. Because you can theoretically get both Scrying Orbs and both Caltrops, and that feels unintended.
Definitely. But I would be curious, listeners, if you could, I don't know, let me know if you ever get the full powered version after that round 1, because my impression is that it is not possible. Strictly based on personal experience, which is low sample size, but it seems to me as though if you get any of those ones with multiple versions, it'll only be the underpowered version after round 1, and it would only be the higher powered version after round 5. I think that similarly, Small Pouches is a post round 1 power. I believe that Robes of, or that Sticky Fingers might be. I don't know. And Mysterious Tome. There are certain ones that certainly feel more underpowered. I'm not sure how strict the divisions are. Recycling, perhaps.
Yeah,
But,
it's just that some of these were clearly changed from the solo, and some of these clearly weren't, and there are 3 of them that were both changed from the solo and the original still in there. So I don't know if that's intended or not, but if the powered up versions disappear, just be aware that might happen. Might be a thing. But yeah, to share my impressions, I had a 12-win run with Druid, and I tried some goofy stuff that was not Druid to clear quests and also try stuff. I tried Warlock. Don't. Just do not pick the Warlock. Don't do it. The hero power is worse than Life Tap by a large margin. There are like 3 discard synergy sets in the entire mode, and like then you're paying 2 mana for a Silverware Golem draw card, which it's not good. And there's no way to build that deck well, and there's no way to win with the decks that you have access to. It's really, really terrible. Play Demon Hunter. Enjoy Demon Hunter. Don't think I built it all that well to begin with, because I tried to summon the big demons, and I think the correct way to go is just, like, build a good Demon Hunter deck and ignore the treasure. And
which feels weird, by the way.
Yeah, it does, right? But, like...
It feels real strange.
I think the best way to build that deck is to be Soul Demon Hunter. And then, like, you play the treasure and summon a Battle Fiend and a Spirit Jailer, and, like, it's fine, I guess. I don't know.
I feel like if you get the buckets, the treasure can be nuts. I have definitely lost to that treasure summoning the Void Hound, I believe it is.
The big one, the 9/10/10, yeah.
Along with Pit Commander and Hulking Overlord or Imprisoned Antennae, so...
I actually beat one that summoned 2 of the 10/10s and the 5/10 with Rush. But
were you playing Frost Nova?
No, I was playing Blade Flurry.
Yeah,
no,
that'll do it as well.
What is it? What
Blade Dance?
Blade Storm.
The warrior
Blade
one.
Storm.
The warrior one.
Blade Storm.
Oh, Blade Storm. Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty juicy. And Firebat did actually, he won the tournament. One of the starting decks he used was Demon Hunter, and it did include both Hulking Overfiend and Ancient Voidhound, and then was just Soul Demon Hunter. So yeah.
The Soul Demon Hunter feels really good, and your deck is smaller considerably, so like healing feels like it matters quite a bit, because there are some very aggressive decks.
Yeah.
And there are some very good aggressive decks, at least in the early game.
Yep, and there are absolutely some synergies to be explored with all of them, but just my early first impressions, I really enjoyed playing Druid because it was busted, and Demon Hunter was fun, but I didn't build it particularly well, and I played some Enrage Warrior, and that was pretty good. I liked it, and it feels like a lot of what people have said about this mode reminds me of what people said about BGs when it first came out, that it seems too variant and is not going to be competitive. and then really good people are doing really well at it. And after playing it a bunch of times and figuring out what a good starting deck actually looks like, I think there's a ton of depth to this mode. And even with the variance and potential balance stuff going on, there's a ton going on here. And I love roguelikes. Big fan of Slay the Spire, big fan of Hades, big fan of Dead Cells, whatever. I feel like this mode, Battlegrounds, I like, but the game length is a little bit too long. I can spin up a duels on my phone when I'm like waiting for a train and pick my deck or whatever, and then just put the phone away. Or play one game when I have a second and then put the phone away. A full run takes a while, but one game at a time or just the picks can be the fun part. And I think there's enough depth here with enough variability that for content creators, this is an awesome mode. And for people that are just looking to play something that you don't have to invest quite as much energy as in Constructed, and at the same time, if you want to, you can. I like that a lot, and I think there's a lot of depth here.
Yeah, and although each class has sort of pushed archetypes, since there's multiple directions that you can go, there's kind of a very weird thing that happens. But we'll get into deck building strategy in a bit. I think we'll start with is I took tiers according to HS top decks, and we can kind of debate how we feel about these tiers. They have marked Demon Hunter, Mage, and Shaman as tier 1, which I actually fully agree with. They have put Hunter, Priest, and Warrior at tier 2, Paladin and Druid at tier 3, and then Rogue and Warlock at the bottom. Warlock at the bottom, we can pretty solidly agree with. I have felt like Hunter can burn out, right? It's sort of if they don't kill you in that initial phase of the game, they just kind of run out of stuff. Priest, I honestly haven't seen too many of do well. Whereas I've gotten destroyed by some Paladins.
Priest this high on my list, and maybe it's interesting because I wonder how much of my response to this will be tainted because I haven't had a good run yet. I literally haven't had a run with more than 6 wins. Most of mine go to 5 or 6 wins, but that's usually where I get a kind of crappy treasure and then immediately lose to somebody with a really good treasure. But yeah, Priest stands out as way too high on this list for me because I think that for me, this list largely revolves around the good hero powers, and I think Priest has the second worst hero power to Warlock. Like, the card draw doesn't really matter that much, and the 1 extra healing just doesn't compete with the things that all of these other hero powers are doing.
And I'm going to quote Schwal, who's over on Arena Sensei, which they are definitely rebranding because Schwal is not going to stop playing duels forever. You can't build a good starting priest deck. There's no good starting priest deck. So like there's if you're gonna figure out if a deck is good, you have to figure out, is the hero power worth building around? Is the starting treasure worth building around? And can I build a deck that does both? Some classes can do one or the other, right? Some classes you can either build around the hero power or the treasure. Demon Hunter. And building around the hero power combined with the Demon Hunter cards is totally worth it, and some of the treasures are local bananas crazy with what Demon Hunter does. The treasure, like the starting treasure that you have to cast for 4 mana, is kind of sketchy. You can put a couple big demons in your deck and call it a day, and it's fine. But it's not going to be quite the same. I feel like Druid is definitely underrated in this list because both the hero power and the starting treasure are both really strong in my experience. Paladin is kind of tricky to work with. But once you get both those things going, if you can make good resurrects and then get the legendary sword going, it's very powerful. I think it's just tricky to make that happen. Whereas you look at Mage, you don't have to work that hard to make Mage good, and both the starting treasure and the hero power are the nuts. And also, if you run Tour Guide, on turn 1, you can play turn 1 Mana Worm again. You can play turn 1 Mana Worm.
I didn't even think of that one.
You do the turn 1 Mana Worm. I missed you. I missed you so much.
I've honestly been using the Mage hero power as more of a kind of controlling kind of thing, that I use the hero power a lot in the early game and eventually hit a point where, okay, they couldn't kill 1 to 2 mana worms. Now we just go nuts and they die, or you make a couple and Frost Nova. Frost Nova's really good in this game mode, by the way. I mean, it's always good, but
Yeah,
Druid,
I would probably, I don't know. I felt like Hunter's been pretty good, and maybe that's just because my runs are pretty early and maybe it falls off towards the later parts, but I felt like I would have moved Hunter up one, and I think I would have probably moved Shaman down one. And not because I don't think Shaman is really good. I think Shaman's really good. I think that Trick Totem by itself makes Shaman slightly worse than everything else. I think that Trick Totem is a real liability, even though you don't have like I don't think you have anything that wipes your whole board for free, but it's just the other totems are so good, and when you hit a Trick Totem, it feels really bad. So I probably would have had Shaman down one, but I think Demon Hunter is definitely in the top there. I haven't been super impressed with Mage, but I'm not surprised to see Mage up this high. But yeah, just kind of minor tweaks other than Priest. I would have Priest at tier 4.
I would have
Yeah,
Priest
Shaman
above
is
Warlock and below stuff.
Yes.
Shaman has felt correct placement to me because it pretty consistently, they have boards forever, and you can use that in diverse ways. As long as you are consistently able to overload, you can go aggressive and pick up things like the overload, give your board +1/+1. That can be quite strong, or just have a bloodlust available so that at some point they leave up minions and die. Another option is if you get the recycling treasure, where you get an armor for each minion that's died. You kind of have this thing going where your opponent is scared to leave stuff up, but every time they kill all your board, you gain a huge amount of armor. I had a game where I ran out of damage because they gained so much armor from all the minions dying, and that becomes a very unusual sort of controlling style.
But have you built a Shaman deck without Bloodlust? Because you just have to play Bloodlust, right? You have to.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, 2 mana make 2 things. You want to play Bloodlust in that deck.
You do, yes. Especially when sometimes Trick Totem does like more stuff. Yeah, I enjoyed my time with Shaman quite a bit. Of note, the decks fire about one with Mage, Shaman, Hunter, Paladin, and Demon Hunter. So it makes sense those are higher up there. Again, I was expecting to see Druid, and I was actually expecting to see Rogue. I think Rogue is placed a little bit too low here. It's hard to make work, and Self-Sharpening Sword is banned in deck construction as the only card that's banned in deck construction, which is a little weird. I don't know why they did that, by the way. Like, it's good, but I don't think it's, like, banned from starting deck good, is it?
It's specifically insane with the treasure that they're giving everyone. I think
the Rogue Treasure, yeah.
that can sort of carry your first few games. Here's what's weird, right? Is the face strategies fall off as you get further, because eventually you have 40 life. So it becomes potentially more difficult for at least some of the all-in face decks, if they don't get the right treasures and things, to really get over the finish line. But if you had a deck starting with Self-Sharpening Sword, you coin that out or put it out on 3, and then you use the Rogue Treasure, along with assuming you have Deadly Poison in the deck and other weapon buff stuff, you can just deal that 20 damage very, very quickly for the first opponent. First 2, really. It's like you have 20 life, then 25 life. So it would be a lot of early free wins that would feel pretty difficult. Although it does bring an interesting discussion, which is, do you include weapon destruction in your starting deck? And I think there's an argument to be made that something like Harrison or an Ooze is worth including, just because a lot of the treasures are weapons, and so even non-weapon classes have pretty decent potential to end up with something like the either if they're building Quel'Delar or they have Archmage Staff, Hyper Blaster, Jaws, the Exorciser.
If they dome you for 8 and flame strike
Feoris
your
Blade.
board, and then you play an acidic swamp ooze, are you really winning that game? Is that what's happening?
No, but there are certain weapons like Feoris Blade and Blade of the Burning Sun. Well, Blade of the Burning Sun, it doesn't work because of the Death Rattle, but there are certain ones where destroying it can help a lot. I've been shut out for quite a while because of Hyper Blaster. And I just
Hyper Blaster
think
is a pain in the butt, yeah.
certainly with something like Harrison, where you can squeeze in card draw into maybe a hunter that wouldn't otherwise have it, it can be nice to give you that edge. And people aren't going to play around it because tech cards are not something that you're going to get offered in buckets. So if you want them, you need to include them in your starting deck. So I tend to have Lotheb in my list.
Yeah. I think Lotheb is like the only Nax legendary that is worth including. Don't put Baron Rivendare in your Death Rattle Hunter. Do not do it. It's not worth it.
Unless you want to.
Well, okay, you can. Don't craft Baron Rivendare.
Unless
That's
you want
a BG's
to.
card.
It is. It's very good in BGs.
I'm not going to stop anybody from crafting Baron Rivendare because that card is fun.
It is fun, but also there's a new expansion coming out in 2.5 weeks, and if you have spare dust and you spend it on Baron Rivendare, be aware that by most objective measures it is somewhat irresponsible, and so you're welcome to do it, but be aware that it's somewhat irresponsible.
I think also, if you have Baron Rivendare in your deck, you should probably be just trying to high roll Totem of the Dead and not having Baron Rivendare in your deck. Because
Yes,
they don't
probably.
stack. So twice is twice. You don't get twice multiple times.
But also, Face Hunter is probably better than Death Rattle Hunter, and you should probably be playing Face Hunter because Hunter
Ooh,
Hero
that
Power
is
is
a
pretty good.
bold statement. The Hunter Hero Power remains good no matter what. And double Death Rattles with your first Death Rattle minion you play has Reborn, that can be pretty gross.
And also throwback to, again, Firebat's lists. One of the tricks to making Death Rattle Hunter good, put True Aim Crescent in your deck. Well, also, okay,
Ooh.
if you get Wax Rager, yes, that's good in all the decks, but if you put True Aim Crescent in your deck, your Death Rattles can pop whenever you want them to, and that's a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, just throwing it out there, that I think that Death Rattle Hunter might be the way to go, because I have noticed the scaling of face decks is very hard to keep up. And the defensive turns and power turns just get so much better as more treasures come up. Hyper Blaster we talked about. It's a 3-mana is that a 1/4 or 1/5 treasure? It's
1/4.
1/4 treasure. It's poisonous and you have immune while attacking.
Immune.
Yeah. So just kill the next 4 big things that your opponent plays one at a time. It's really hard to deal with if you're trying to go for big stuff deck, and they can just like kill a bunch of stuff. And there are a lot of weapons that are really, really powerful. So maybe the argument of you can't really get Swamp Ooze or Sticky Finger or whatever in a bucket, it has some merit there, I think. Makes sense. Because also Feoris' Blade is the nuts. Really, really gross card. That's the it's the 4-mana treasure that it's a 1/3 that has Wind Fury, and when you attack and kill him, and the weapon gets +2/+1. So just it scales over time, and there's a point where you just cannot develop a board ever, ever, ever.
Well, and that and Demon Hunter. Super gross.
Yes. Yes. Oh, gosh. So, what is your Edelweiss? What is your deck?
I don't know.
Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, with Face Hunter, I've died to a lot of Face Hunters, which is probably why I was rating it higher, and also died to Hunter that had the passive where you get to use your hero power twice a turn and it costs 1 less.
Oh.
With that Hunter hero power. So 2-mana deal 4 at minimum. Couldn't beat it. Could not beat that.
I foresee a future where that hero power is not in the mode, by the way.
Well, we're going to see a future where it's also like we're doing this now so that people who have the option to play duels get to do this, but the build's going to change so much when they start adding in more hero powers and more like starting cards, like the whatever you call it, the card that you have to choose right now that some decks just try to avoid having to play.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah. I would say there are certain decks that push a deck building strategy more than others. The Paladin, for example, you can go kind of aggressive with it, but then you kind of run out of steam. What has usually killed me from Paladins are decks that really lean into the weapon that summons a legendary from their deck, and they just do that a few times, and I die because it's too many legendaries. I've gotten Lich Kinged by that. I've gotten Tyrioned by that on pretty early turns. It was rough. But I would say usually the strategy for deck building I find is to go a middle of the road kind of line. If you can build your deck so that it's going to be strong in multiple directions, that's gonna be usually it'll allow you to be flexible based on your buckets. That's what I'm trying to say. So in Demon Hunter, you've got a little bit of the souls stuff going on. You've got a little bit of the aggressive stuff going on. In Hunters, you have some secrets, you have some aggressive minions, you still have maybe a high main on the top end for death rattles. And for Mage, you can have basically what you would expect to be a tempo mage list, where you've got a little bit of spell damage, you've got your Sorcerer's Apprentice, Jandis Barov. If you include Antonitis and Sorcerer's Apprentice, there's always a chance you get the stuff to reduce your spells, and there's a treasure where you summon copies. You fill your board with copies of a minion, and so you just Exodia your opponent with the Fireball combo. But the important thing is, if you go all in on I'm going to be a Death Rattle Hunter, and then you don't get the Death Rattle treasure, or there's a few of them, but if you aren't offered them, and then you're having to go in a different direction, you've got some kind of questionable cards going on in your list. So it's better to be sort of all around and tempo oriented with your starting deck, and then shape your list from there. I've included a link in the show notes of some starting decks that are some top decks listed that I think are plenty decent. If you are getting frustrated with certain things like weapon treasures, you could try something like Sticky Finger in those lists. I definitely recommend Lotheb if you have it. But one of the great things about this mode is, while the starting deck does matter and you should try to optimize that, it's really going to be your bucket selection and the treasures you get that are going to determine the long-term effect of your run.
And we should point out this theory that is unsubstantiated at this point, but Orange has said this, that Orange has a theory that you can force archetypes in duels. For example, if you fill your deck with taunts as Druid, he claims you are more likely to see Hadronox. If you put Death Rattles in Hunter, you are more likely to see Cube or N'Zoth. If you put Big Minions in Warrior, you're more likely to see Woe Cleaver. Small sample size. But he said, so far, I've been getting the pieces I was building for within my first 3 games every time. Not huge sample size, but big enough that I felt like I could share, for example. So, to start with, he built, I'll link this tweet. The starting deck included things like Ironbark Protector, the 8-mana 8/8 taunt, Sunwalker, 6-mana 4/5 Divine Shield taunt, Smug Senior, the 6-mana 5/7 taunt, the Death Rattle, you add a Spectral Senior to your hand. Included all of these cards and a bunch of taunts, and after the first game, the bucket was Hadronox Wing Guardian Naturalize. And that apparently, per Toxic Adam in the chat, that Firebat was forcing Silence Priest and got Silence buckets. We have not tested this. We don't know if this is true. If it is true, this adds a significant layer of complexity to this mode, at least at first, and then when people figure out what to force, it adds a significant layer of metagaming to this mode, because there will be some pretty clear strategies to go for. Wash, if Reno, Brand, and Zephyr are not immediately banned the second they become legal in this format, I will be shocked. There's no way they let you play with those cards. Absolutely no way. Yeah, like maybe.
It's kind of funny. I get almost concerned every time when I get my opponent to a low health because I'm like not sure about all the cards that are included. I'm like, I hope I don't get Reno'd right now. But then I have to remind myself that Reno is not in the format. But I'm still always worried that I'm going to get Reno'd.
Yeah.
I got double rag spelled, so that was fun. I thought I was safe, and then I took...
with the doubling spell, and they played rag fireballs, and you got hit in the face for 48?
On turn 9. That was... Yep, that happened.
Yikes. Turn what? Bodicus, what turn
9.
was that? You did this to yourself, buddy. So, question for both of you. What's up with this no thanks please bucket that is empty? What's up with that?
So it is not a bug. I believe once you hit... I don't know how often it's offered, but once you get a certain amount of far in your run, you may occasionally see an empty bucket, which is usually going to be the correct play. Unless your deck is still struggling to get some of its synergies online, I tend to take the no thanks please, because when you have fewer cards in your deck, you are going to be much more likely to see the treasures, which are the truly busted things of this game mode, and usually the cards that you're going to want to find. Maybe a little less if you have more reactive treasures, like just the destroy a minion kind of effects. But most of the time, the treasures are so pushed that if you can keep your deck as lean as possible, you'll be much more likely to encounter those treasures. So I always take the no more, please, if I can help it. And at a certain point, they just don't add more cards to your deck. I'm not sure at what...
8 wins.
After what round that starts happening? Okay,
8 wins. It is very clearly this is the BlizzCon floor demo, if we mentioned before, but it is very definitely reusing the code from the final wing of Dalaran Heist. So after 8 wins in Dalaran Heist, you just got the one treasure, but you didn't actually, or you got the treasure after boss 9, the treasure after boss 11, and then you didn't get more cards. It's the same thing. After 8 wins, you stop seeing buckets.
Which is good, because it's just a lot to keep track of otherwise.
I have also been using Edelweiss's strategy of mostly taking the bucket with nothing in it, but I did have a run where I felt like I needed more cards, and cards fit well into what I was going for, so I ended up straying from that. But in general, less cards better. And I actually saw one of those little tips that they have. They actually had that as a tip. They tried to make that obvious. It said if you have less cards in your deck, you're more likely to draw specific cards, or something along those lines, which I thought was interesting. They're trying to help people understand why that is a bucket, and you might want to take it, and you probably should be taking it most of the time.
Slay the Spire gamers know what's up. Take that skip.
Yep.
Gotta skip. Yeah, I like that they included this intentionally. They also included it unintentionally with Paladin, where there were actual bugged buckets that were also empty and unlabeled. So they fixed that, but you are supposed to get empty buckets sometimes. All right, what are the busted treasures? What are the ones you look out for, both in terms of passives and actives? Because there are a few I can think of, and at least one of them is Wax Rager. Because Wax Rager is insane. That's the 3-mana 5/1 Death Rattle resummon this. It won't go away. Sticks around.
If you have the double death rattles, your board will just become Wax Ragers, and if they don't have a way to silence them, you'll probably get there with a lot of 5-power minions that never go away. So, absolutely on board with Wax Rager. I would say it's fun to build Quel'Dalar, but pretty unlikely. Hunter's Insight, if you tend to have a lot of cards in hand, is really nice value. I think it's kind of underrated. It's just a 1 mana for a Thaurissan Tick, reduce the cost of all cards in your hand. Someone mentioned Wand of Disintegration. That is a personal favorite. That has saved me a couple of games where my opponent had me dead to rights with a really early blowout, and then I top decked Wand of Disintegration, and they were out of stuff.
Yeah.
So that can certainly swing some games.
For those who don't know what that is,
Same with Staff of Scales.
yeah. For those that don't know what it
Both are
is,
pretty similar.
Disintegration Wand is 5 mana Plague of Death targeting opponent, which is pretty insane. And Staff of Scales is 5 mana Summon 3 Rush, Reborn, Poison, Snakes. So hit, and then hit, kill 6 things. I think it's 5 mana, kill 6 things.
Yep.
Seems good. Seems okay.
Or kill a couple things and leave a board of stuff that's potentially very hard to kill and will kill your stuff the next turn as well. Also, downgraded Krusty. I've also gotten Krustied. Krusty the Crustacean. In Dalaran Heist, I believe it cost 1 mana.
Yes.
For
a 3/4, I think.
For a 3/4 that destroyed a minion and gained all its stats. They added 4 mana to this card, and it's still pretty freaking good. So, 5 mana, 3/3, destroy a minion, gain its attack and health. Flame Tongue Kavu that is really big. Pretty good.
Bag of Coins is pretty nuts in Mage. You can murder people out of nowhere when they leave up a Mana Worm, because it's a spell to get the 3 coins, and then you cast the 3 coins, and you use those to cast more spells. It makes Mana Worm hit for a lot.
Yeah.
And then
go ahead.
Locusts can go face. That's something I think people don't always realize, but it's a 7 mana spell, twin spell, choose an enemy, fill your board with 2/2 locusts that attack it. That is 14 damage. That is pretty much what I use it for most of the time. It's quite good.
Yeah, doming for 14 and then saying I get another one is kind of nice. And we talked about a couple of the weapons earlier. Hyper Blaster, Feoris Blade are both really, really good for board control. And those are I think the outliers. All of the treasures are really good in cards they would never release in for regular constructed modes. But there are some of them that are definitely there are 3 that are large bulldogs that are all they're fun, but they're definitely not quite in the same power level as these. There are some treasures that were really insane when you had Robes of Gaudiness, like Dreamgrove Ring, which discover a legendary minion, summon 5 copies of it. Card is not that great at 9. At 4 mana, it was very strong. Believe it or not, who would have guessed? But really, the consistent theme that I've noticed of cards that are good are of the treasures that are good are the ones that completely destroy the board perpetually. Make it really hard for your opponent to develop at all. And the wand and the staff are really good at that. The blade and Hyper Blast are really good at that. Locust it makes a board and also it's just a bunch of burn. The things that kind of give you that perpetual board control. As far as the passives, there are some good ones. I want to talk about the Demon Hunter decks that I've been seeing play Penflinger. And there's a passive called Band of Bees that gives all minions that cost 2 or less poisonous. A poisonous Penflinger is a thing that probably shouldn't happen, but when it does happen, you'll know it happens. Because,
just watch out for Caltrops.
Yes, also watch out for Caltrops. Also, be careful about playing Caltrops if you're against warriors, because you might actually buff their deck. There have been a few times where my opponent has had the Caltrops, and I'm I just run out the Amani Berserker or whatever. It's I will take a 2 mana 5/2. That's fine.
Goggles is busted.
Goggles good.
Goggles
usually.
The new Robes, which is considerably more balanced, but still busted.
Yeah. The passives are first minion you play each turn with Rush is good, and the spell costing 1 less is good. I think the Death Rattle ones are sneaky powerful.
Pillage of the Fallen, quite
Scepter
powerful.
of
the weapon
Summoning.
ones. Yeah. Okay.
Also Scepter of Summoning.
So wait. So Edelweiss, what does the weapon one do? What does Pillage of the Fallen do?
Pillage of the Fallen, I believe this is one you can get as your first passive treasure.
Yes,
And it
you
says
can.
whenever your weapon is destroyed, equip a random weapon of the same cost. Now, remember that we have a very limited pool of weapons right now. So I find that, especially at 4, there's a lot of strong weapons. You've got True Silver Champion, you've got Death's Bite, you've got
Marrow Slicer, Reaper's Scythe.
yeah, Marrow Slicer, Reaper's Scythe.
I think
they're
that's it.
all 4-2s, basically.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything that is under 4-2. And some of them are vanilla 4-2s, and some of them have nice effects like healing for 2 or maybe cleaving. So that and 4
one's vanilla, and the other ones have very game-changing or potentially game-changing effects.
Yeah. So I like to have this in Warrior and just be very control focused, but with a weapon clock that's just never going to go away.
Yeah, I like having the 4 mana one, and also if you can pick up Gore Howl, also pretty good in Warrior.
Is that just only Gore Howl or Gladiator's
Gore Howl
Longbow?
and Gladiator's Longbow.
Those seem pretty good.
And the 4/3 Demon Hunter weapon that hits
the Flame Strike
hits all
weapon.
target.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah. I don't know what that thing is called, but I know it's good at board control.
Board control is very good in this format, in case you were wondering. People are generally trying to attack you with minions.
Yeah.
Which is also why Rocket Backpacks is pretty good. And then I feel like Scepter of Summoning is similar to the one that was removed, but is also very reliant on getting the right buckets, because I picked up a early Scepter of Summoning playing Warrior once, and then did not see any minions that cost more than 5 for my next 4 or 5 buckets. So got to be careful.
Yeah, and then Death Rattles are pretty pushed in multiple ways. You've got your first Death Rattle, you play each turn, triggers its effect. There's another first Death Rattle, gets reborn, and then there's double Death Rattles. Battle Cries is more something that you can sprinkle into other stuff. I had a mage run where I got Battle Cries, and Double Jandis is amazing. So that usually fits in nicely with kind of whatever.
I got Double Jandis one of my first runs, and my opponent summoned 2 Earth Elementals. And in the sequential, it wasn't at the same time. It was 1 Earth Elemental in the first one, along with, I think, a Void Drinker, and the second one got another different Earth Elemental, along with some other thing that I couldn't deal with. I lost the game. It was very fast. They also had robes, so it was on turn 2. Duels things. But I think as we wind down our talk about this mode,
last 2 ones I want to mention. Sticky Fingers, pretty good in Demon Hunter, because you're constantly generating second slices, which are now free, because cards that didn't start in your deck cost 1 less. And then Double Time, also good in Demon Hunter, because getting a bunch of second slices that cast twice at the start of your turn, which makes you deal a lot of damage.
Some good old quad slicing.
Yeah.
So if we wind on talk about this mode, think about a lot of the things we talk about sound kind of broken, and they kind of are, but it's this weird mode where you start off with a low-power deck with a bunch of cards that could never see play in Wild, but can see play in this mode, and then by the end of the mode, you have a deck that would beat Wild decks. And that's cool, and seeing how powerful a deck can become over time is great, and that feeling of what's in the next bucket, but the later you go in the mode, make peace with the fact that there are going to be some large swing turns, and sometimes you will have them, and sometimes your opponent will have them. And if the idea of a large swing turn where sometimes all of your stuff dies and then you lose the next turn frustrates you, you need to make peace with that before you queue into the mode, or else you're going to have a bad time. Because the good decks are really strong, and sometimes it'll be you, sometimes it'll be me, and that's okay. But make peace with that up front, and the mode's really fun. But if you expect everything to feel super balanced and fair and everything is on the same power level, that's not going to happen at the end of your runs. You're going to get locusted to the face. You're going to take 14 and then know you're going to take another 14 the next turn, and you're going to have to Except that it's a thing that happens in the mode. And that's how it is. But if you make peace with that, it's a lot of fun.
Just Frost Nova them.
Yep.
Yes. Or like rag shot them for 48. I don't know. There are a lot of ways to do broken things right back. Just accept that that's these treasures. When you take all these treasures and you put them all together, that's gonna happen. And sometimes you get to do the broken things, and that's a lot of fun. And I think we're ready to wind down for the week. Are you ready? Are you all ready? Let's wind it down. So we have many folks I'd like to thank. Check out our thanks section on the website at CoinConcede.com. You can find our content info, show notes, and Patreon information. You can monetarily support our show, patreon.com/CoinConcede. Join us every week live by following us on Twitch, twitch.coinconcede.com. Join our community chats and our Discord at discord.coinconcede.com. Right into our email at coinconcede@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter, CoinConcede. Like, share, and follow us on Facebook.com/CoinConcede. Like some CC swag, head over to our shop at shop.coinconcede.com. Big thanks to our producers, Number Theory, Tenor Wizard, Tony S, Doge TK, Carhu, Pug Ugly, and Proby1. Twitch subs, Gun Syndicate, thank you so much for subscribing during the show. Wash in the Wind and Wikigood, thank you so much for your raids. All right, who's got Coin Concedes ready? Who's ready?
Yeah, I'll go. I just have a coin concede to my wife, who has been doing a lot of the heavy lifting in terms of taking care of the kittens that we fostered, who unexpectedly have ringworm.
Oof.
So we've had to do a lot of cleaning and giving them medicine and still trying to play with them to socialize them. It's been a lot. If there was any background noises on my end, it's because the kittens were playing around in their little pen we've got in the middle of the living room.
They're
So,
adorable, by the way. If you can't see them, but I can, and they are so cute.
I don't know how you can.
They're in the corner there. I don't know. It's fine. I look for cats at parties. Back when we had parties, I would look for the cat. You find the pet at the party, and then you deal with the pet and not the people. That's how parties go, Botticus. Haven't you been? Yeah. So anyway.
No, I don't party.
So Botticus, who are your coin concedes this week?
No coin concedes for me this week.
Okay. Well, and my coin concedes, I'd like to shout out, well, first of all, Celestalon for being funny, Alec and Ixar for doing interview requests. Alec's going to be on, or Alec and Ixar for doing interview requests and all that, for just the public communication around the set so far. Really excited to have Ixar on next week. Gavin Verhey for being Gavin Verhey. They announced a very powerful new magic card for Commander this week. And I know the Hearthstone Twitter community can be passionate. The Magic the Gathering Twitter community, I think, is a very different place, not always as positive. And I just have a lot of respect for Gavin for his poise and dignity over there. Shout-outs to the firefighters for the Silverado fire. Cannot believe that no homes were lost in that fire in the middle of Irvine. They worked their butts off in a very challenging year. Shoutouts to my legacy team, the Pod People. We made playoffs again because we're great. And yeah. So, it's our show this week. Keep calm, and
It's time to do.
if you see us in the 12-win bracket, coin concede.
Coin concede.
Coin concede.
Very well. The day is yours.
It would be wise to retreat.
Never give up. Run away. The others will avenge me. I give up.
All right, thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. We'll see you next week. For Ixar.